music because there's many good people playing in that record, but the style of the alto is so different from anything else that's on the record or that went before. Did you realize at that time what effect you were going to have on jazz? And you were going to change the entire scene in the next 10 years?
Well, let's put it like this. No, I had no idea that it was that much different.
Well,
I'd like to stick in a question, if I may. I'd like to know why there was this violent change, really. After all, up until this time, the way to play the alto sax was the way that Johnny Hodges and Benny Carter played alto. And this seems to be an entirely different conception, not just of how to play that particular horn, but music in general.
yeah, how to play any horn.
I don't think there's any answer to.
It's just the way you
speaking,
felt.
John. Yeah, that's what I said when I first started talking. That's my first conception, man. That's the way I thought it should go, and I still do. I mean, of course, it could stand much improvement. Most likely in another 25, maybe 50 years, some youngster will come along and take the style and really do something with it, you know? But, I mean, ever since I've ever heard music, I thought it should be very clean, very precise, as clean as possible anyway, you know? And more or less to the people, you know, something they could understand, something that was beautiful, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because definitely there's stories and stories and stories that can be told in the musical idiom, you know? You wouldn't say idiom either. It's so hard to describe music other than the basic way to describe it. Music is basically melody, harmony, and rhythm. But, I mean, people can do much more with music than that. It can be very descriptive in all kinds of ways, you know? All walks of life. Don't you agree, Paul?
Yeah, and you always do have a story to tell. It's one of the most impressive things about everything I've ever heard of yours.
Well, that's Paul, that's the object. That's where I thought it should be.
Uh-huh. Another thing that's been a major factor in your playing is this fantastic technique that nobody's quite equaled. And I always wondered about that, too, whether there was, whether that came behind practicing or whether that was just from playing, whether it evolved gradually.
Well, you make it so hard for me to answer, you know, because I can't see where there's anything fantastic about it at all. I put quite a bit of study into the horn, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the neighbors threatened to ask my mother to move once when I was living out west. I mean, they said I was driving them crazy with the horn. I used to put in at least from 11 to 15 hours a day.
Yeah, that's what I wondered.
Well, that's true, yes. I did that for over a period of 3 or 4 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess that's the answer.
Well, that's the facts anyway.
Yeah. I heard a record of yours a couple of months ago that somehow I've missed up to date, and I heard about a 2-bar quote from the Close A book. It was like an echo from home.
Oh. Yeah. Well, it was all done with books, you know. Naturally, it wasn't done with mirrors. This time it was done with books.
That's very reassuring to hear, because somehow I got the idea that you were just sort of born with that technique, and you never had to worry too much about keeping it working.
You know, I'm very glad that he's bringing out this point, because I think a lot of young musicians tend to think that...
Yeah, they do. They just
that
go
it isn't
out,
necessary to do this.
go out and make those sessions and live the life, but they don't put in that 11 hours a day with any of the books.
Oh, definitely. Study is absolutely necessary in all forms. It's just like any talent that's born within somebody. It's just like a good pair of shoes when you put a shine on it, you know? Like schooling brings out the polish, you know, of any talent that happens anywhere in the world. Einstein had schooling, but he has a definite genius, you know, within himself. Schooling's one of the most wonderful things there's ever been, you know?
I'm glad to hear you say this.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well?
How about another record?
Yeah. Which one should we take this time?
You want to skip a little while? And Charlie picked out Night and Day
Okay.
as one of his records. Is this is with a band or with strings?
No, this is just with the large bands. I think there's about 19 pieces on this.
Why don't we listen to it and then we can talk about it?
Bells.